Title: Silk and Stone, A Union of Empires by Gurley Nikadzino. The first time Minji Park heard his name, it was spoken in a boardroom where power did not whisper. It declared, "Mr. Tendai Moyo will be joining us via video link from Harare." The air shifted. Minji, seated at the far end of the polished walnut table inside Seoul's towering financial district, lifted her gaze from the quarterly projections. She was known for precision, for calm, for never being distracted. But something about the way the executives straightened their posture told her this man was not ordinary. The screen flickered to life, and there he was, Tendai Moyo, dark suit, stillness like a mountain, eyes that carried history. "Good morning," he said, his voice deep, grounded. "Or good evening, depending on where you are in the world." A ripple of polite laughter followed, but Minji did not laugh. She was studying him, his cadence, his confidence, the way he spoke as if he owned not just the company, but time itself. This was a man who built things, empires perhaps. Weeks later, they met in person. He arrived in Seoul with a delegation. But when he stepped into the room, he carried Zimbabwe with him, not as a place but as presence, warm, rooted, unapologetically whole. Minji was tasked with leading negotiations. "Ms. Park," he greeted, extending his hand. "Moyoshi," she replied, bowing slightly before taking it. A pause. 2 worlds touched. His handshake was firm, hers precise. But beneath it, something unspoken passed between them. Curiosity, perhaps, or recognition. Their meetings stretched from hours into days. Boardrooms became battlegrounds of intellect. Currency strategies, infrastructure investments, agricultural expansions across southern Africa, and technology integration from East Asia. Minji spoke in data. Tendai spoke in vision. "You see numbers," he said one evening as the sun dipped behind Seoul's skyline, painting glass towers gold. "I see people, families, futures." "And numbers build those futures," she replied, not unkindly. He smiled. "Then, perhaps we need both." Outside the boardroom, their worlds unfolded. He introduced her to stories of Zimbabwe, of red earth and open skies, of resilience stitched into the bones of its people. "My grandmother used to say," he told her over dinner, "that wealth is not what you hold, but what holds you." Minji considered this. In her world, wealth was measured, calculated, optimized. In his, it was lived. When she visited Zimbabwe for the first time, everything shifted. The air was different, alive. She stood on land that stretched endlessly, where the horizon did not feel like a limit, but a promise. "This," Tendai said, standing beside her, "is where I began." She turned to him. "And where you're going?" He looked ahead. "Everywhere." Their partnership deepened, not just in business, but in understanding. Minji learned the rhythm of Shona greetings, the warmth of extended family, the way meals were shared not just for sustenance, but for connection. Tendai learned the quiet discipline of Korean culture, the reverence for elders, the precision of language, the beauty of restraint. He watched her in Seoul, navigating high-stakes meetings with elegance and control. She watched him in Zimbabwe, commanding rooms with presence and heart. They were different, completely, and yet they fit. Love did not arrive loudly. It grew, in glances across conference tables, in late-night strategy calls that turned into conversations about childhood, dreams, fears, in the silence between words that no translation could capture. "You challenge me," she admitted one evening. "And you steady me," he replied. Their wedding was not a compromise, it was a fusion. In Seoul, she wore hanbok, silk, flowing like water, delicate, ancestral. In Harare, she wore vibrant African prints, bold, unapologetic, alive. 2 ceremonies, 2 cultures, 1 union. Drums met strings, ululations met quiet bows. Rice was thrown, blessings were spoken. And somewhere between tradition and transformation, they became something new. Marriage did not soften their ambitions, it sharpened them. Together, they built more than businesses. They built bridges, a multinational venture connecting African agriculture with Asian markets, a foundation supporting education across rural Zimbabwe and underprivileged communities in Korea. Boardrooms once filled with tension now carried something else when they entered together: respect. Because they were not just powerful individually, they were unstoppable together. But it was not always easy. Cultural misunderstandings surfaced, moments where silence meant different things, where expectations clashed. "You don't say what you feel," he once said, frustration breaking through. "And you say everything too loudly," she replied. They stood there, different again, but this time they did not retreat. They leaned in, learning, adapting, loving. Years passed, empires expanded, but their greatest creation was not written in contracts or balance sheets. It was in the quiet moments, their child, born into two worlds, carrying both. A daughter who spoke Korean with her mother and Shona with her father, who bowed to elders and danced to drums, who understood that identity was not a choice. It was a tapestry. One evening, back in that same boardroom in Seoul where it all began, Minji stood at the head of the table. Tendai sat beside her, not across, beside. "We are not here to dominate markets," she said, her voice steady but full of something deeper now. "We are here to connect them." Tendai glanced at her, a quiet pride in his eyes. She continued, "To build something that honors where we come from and where we are going." Silence followed, then applause. Later, as the city lights flickered below them, Tendai took her hand. "Do you remember?" he asked. "The first time we met?" She smiled. "You underestimated me." He laughed softly. "Never." She leaned into him. Two worlds, no longer separate, but intertwined. In the end, their story was not just about love, it was about possibility, about what happens when silk meets stone, when precision meets passion, when cultures do not compete, but collaborate, and somewhere in boardrooms and beyond, in laughter and legacy, in children and change, their union became more than a marriage, it became a movement. End.